Let me ask you something, and I want you to really sit with this for a second. If I told you that a person earning $10 an hour, someone bagging groceries, someone answering phones, someone doing the kind of job that people look at and say, that's just a starter job, could retire with over $1 million, would you believe me? Because most people wouldn't. Most people would say that's impossible. That's not how money works. That's not how life works for regular people. And that's exactly the problem. Because it is possible. It is absolutely possible. And the reason most people don't know it is possible is because nobody sat them down and showed them the math. Nobody drew it out for them. Nobody made it make sense in a way that didn't feel like it was designed for someone with a finance degree. So that's what we're doing today. No jargon, no tricks, just the actual, real, jaw-dropping math that the wealthy understand and that the rest of us were never taught in school. And by the end of this video, you're either going to feel fired up or you're going to feel a little bit frustrated that you didn't know this sooner. Probably both. I know I did. All right, so let's start with someone real. Let's call him Marcus. Marcus is 22 years old. He just got his first full-time job. He's making $10 an hour, which comes out to about $20,800 a year before taxes. After taxes, he's taking home maybe $17,000, $18,000 if he's lucky. He lives in a small apartment. He splits rent with a roommate, and every month feels tight. Not desperate, but tight. Now, most people in Marcus's position look at their bank account and say, I can't invest. I don't have money to invest. That's for rich people. I'll start when I make more. And that sentence, that one sentence, is one of the most expensive decisions a person can ever make. Because here's the thing about Marcus. If Marcus takes just $67 a week, that's less than $10 a day, less than the cost of eating out twice, and puts it into a basic, boring, low-cost index fund, Marcus will be a millionaire by the time he retires. Not if the stock market does something crazy. Not if he picks the right stock. Not if he gets lucky. Just by being consistent, starting young, and letting one of the most powerful forces in the universe do its work. That force is called compounding. And once you truly understand it, I mean really understand it, not just hear the word and nod, everything about money starts to look different. So let me explain compounding in the simplest way I know how. Imagine you have a snowball. You're at the top of a long hill covered in fresh snow. You pack a little ball, the size of your fist, and you start rolling it down the hill. At first, nothing impressive. It's still small. You're watching it and thinking, okay, this is just a snowball. But as it rolls, it picks up more snow. And now it's a little bigger, which means it can pick up even more snow with each rotation. And that extra snow makes it bigger still, which means it picks up even more. And before long, what started as a fist-sized ball of snow is an enormous, unstoppable boulder rolling down that hill. That is compounding. Your money earns returns. And then those returns earn returns. And then the returns on your returns earn returns. It doesn't grow in a straight line. It grows in a curve. A curve that starts almost flat and then goes almost vertical. The technical definition is that compounding is the process where the interest or earnings you make get added back to your principal, and then the whole thing earns interest together. But that definition doesn't make your jaw drop. The snowball makes your jaw drop. And here's where it gets real. The S&P 500, which is basically a basket of the 500 largest American companies, has returned an average of about 10% per year over the last century. Not every year. Some years are negative. Some years are up 20%. But the average, over time, has been roughly 10%. Now, let's say you're being conservative. Let's say you earn 7% after accounting for inflation. That's a reasonable, realistic, boring number that financial planners actually use. At 7%, money doubles roughly every 10 years. That's the rule of 72. You divide 72 by your interest rate, and that tells you how long it takes for your money to double. At 7%, it's about 10 years. So if Marcus invests $5,000 this year and never adds another penny, here's what happens. In 10 years, that $5,000 becomes $10,000. In 20 years, it becomes $20,000. In 30 years, $40,000. In 40 years, $80,000. He turned $5,000 into $80,000 without doing a single thing. But that's not what Marcus is doing. Marcus is investing every single month, month after month, which means every dollar he invests has its own doubling timeline. Every dollar is its own snowball starting down the hill. And when you add it all up, $67 a week, consistently, from age 22 to age 65, at a 7% average annual return, Marcus ends up with just over $1 million. $1 million from someone making $10 an hour. Now here's where I need you to feel something for a second, because the math alone doesn't capture how wild this is. Marcus invests a total of about $147,000 of his own actual money over those 43 years. The rest, the other $853,000, he never earned. He never worked for it. He never saved it. The market created it. Compounding created it. Time created it. Nearly 90% of his final wealth was free. That's the secret that nobody tells you. The wealthy don't get rich by working harder. They get rich by making their money work for them, and by starting early enough that compounding has decades to do its thing. According to a Fidelity Investments analysis, people who invest consistently in their 20s accumulate, on average, 2 to 3 times more wealth than identical investors who wait until their 30s to start. 2 to 3 times. Not 20% more. Not 50% more. 2 to 3 times more wealth, just from starting a decade earlier. Warren Buffett, the most successful investor of all time, made 97% of his net worth after his 52nd birthday. Why? Because that's when his early investments had finally had enough time to reach the near vertical part of the compounding curve. The snowball was enormous, and the hill was still going. He started investing at age 11. He played the long game better than anyone alive. And no, I'm not saying you're going to be Warren Buffett, but I am saying that the same mathematical force that made him the richest investor in history is available to you. Right now? Today? But okay, let's pump the brakes for a second, because I know what some of you are thinking. $10 an hour is barely enough to survive. You want me to invest $67 a week. That's like a quarter of my take-home pay. And look, I hear that. I genuinely do. The cost of living is brutal right now. Rent is up. Groceries are up. Everything costs more than it did 5 years ago. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that saving money is easy when you're making $10 an hour. But here's what I want to challenge. Not because I'm trying to be harsh, but because I actually want you to succeed. The Federal Reserve's 2023 survey of consumer finances found that the median American household spends over $3,000 a year on what economists call non-essential discretionary spending. That includes things like unused subscriptions, eating out more than planned, impulse purchases, entertainment we forget we even spent money on. $3,000 a year is $250 a month. It's about $57 a week. I'm not saying you have to give up everything. I'm saying there is often more room than we think, and our brains are wired to not see it. We feel broke because of how we spend, not always because of how much we make. And here's the thing. You don't even need $67 a week to start. You can start with $25 a week. With $50, you can start with whatever you have and build the habit first. The amount matters less than the consistency, especially early on, because compounding rewards time more than it rewards size. Let me show you what I mean. 2 friends. Let's call them Daniela and James. Daniela starts investing at age 22. She puts in $200 a month for 8 years, then she stops completely. She doesn't add another penny. She just lets it sit. James starts at age 30. He waits until he's a little more stable, a little more comfortable. He puts in $200 a month every single month until he retires at 65. 35 years of investing. He puts in over 4 times as much as Daniela. Who do you think retires with more money? Daniela does. Not by a little, by a significant margin. Because Daniela's money had more time in the market. Her earliest dollars had over 40 years to compound. James's first dollar only had 35 years. This is called the investor's head start paradox, and it breaks people's brains every time they see it. Time in the market beats amount in the market. Getting started matters more than getting it perfect. Every year you wait is like cutting the top off your snowball before you even start rolling it down the hill. So let's talk about the actual how. Because I don't want this to be a video where you feel motivated for 20 minutes and then do nothing. I want you to actually do something after this. Step 1 is opening a Roth IRA. If you've heard that term and thought, that sounds complicated, I'll figure it out later. Stop. It is not complicated. A Roth IRA is just a special type of investment account that the government created specifically to help regular people invest for retirement without getting taxed to death on the gains. Here's why it matters. Remember Marcus's $1 million? Without a Roth IRA, a huge chunk of that would go to taxes when he withdraws it. With a Roth IRA, he contributed money he already paid taxes on, so when he takes it out in retirement, it's completely tax-free. Every penny of that $1 million is his. That tax-free compounding is so powerful that financial advisor Rick Edelman has called the Roth IRA one of the greatest wealth-building tools ever created for everyday Americans. And he's right. You can open one in about 10 minutes on platforms like Fidelity, Vanguard, or Schwab. All free to open. No minimum balance required at Fidelity. You can start with literally $1. Step 2 is picking what goes inside it. And here's where people overthink everything and end up doing nothing. The answer for most people, especially people just getting started, is a simple, low-cost total market index fund or S&P 500 index fund. That's it. Not individual stocks. Not crypto. Not whatever your coworker is excited about this week. Just a plain, boring index fund that tracks the entire market. The reason is simple. About 90% of actively managed funds run by professional investors whose entire job is to beat the market, fail to beat a basic index fund over a 10-year period. 90% of the professionals lose to the index. So why would you try to pick stocks when the pros can't even do it consistently? A low-cost index fund from Vanguard or Fidelity typically charges somewhere between 0.03 and 0.2% per year in fees. That's pennies. Some actively managed funds charge 1 to 2%. That might sound small, but over 30 or 40 years, that difference in fees can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. The fees eat your compounding. Step 3 is automation. Set it and forget it is not a joke. It is a literal strategy. Set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your Roth IRA on the same day every month, ideally right after your paycheck hits. Before you can spend it. Before you can justify skipping it. The psychology of I'll invest whatever is left over at the end of the month doesn't work. There is never anything left over. Pay yourself first, automate it, and treat it like a bill you have to pay. Because your future self is depending on it like a bill hasn't been paid. Now I want to address something that comes up every time I talk about this stuff. And it's the excuse that I understand the most, but that I also push back on the hardest. The market is too risky right now. I'm going to wait until things settle down. I'll start investing when the economy is more stable. I get it. I really do. The market goes down sometimes. Dramatically. In 2008, the S&P 500 dropped over 50%. In March 2020, when COVID hit, it dropped 34% in about 5 weeks. Those are terrifying numbers if you're watching your account balance. But here's what happened after both of those crashes. The market recovered, and then it went higher than it had ever been before. Every single crash in the history of the U.S. stock market has eventually been followed by a new all-time high. Every one. People who sold in panic locked in their losses. People who stayed the course, or better yet, kept buying during the crash, came out ahead. J.P. Morgan did a study looking at the returns of the S&P 500 from 2002 to 2022. If you stayed fully invested the entire time, you earned about 9.5% per year. But if you missed just the 10 best days of that 20-year period, 10 days out of roughly 5,000, your returns dropped to about 5.5%. Miss the 20 best days, and you barely beat inflation. The best days in the market almost always happen right after the worst days. Which means the people who panic sell during crashes are the same people who miss the recovery. Time in the market beats timing the market. Every time. Without exception. And here's the final thing I want to leave you with, because I think it's the most important thing I'm going to say in this entire video. The reason most $10 an hour workers don't retire as millionaires isn't because the math doesn't work. It's because nobody showed them the math. Nobody explained it simply. Nobody made it feel real and possible and within reach. It's because the people who do understand compounding, the wealthy, the financially educated, they learned it early. From parents, from mentors, from being in environments where money was talked about differently. And if you didn't grow up in that environment, it's not your fault. But it is your responsibility to change it now. Because the math doesn't care who you are. The math doesn't care what zip code you grew up in, what your parents did or didn't teach you, what mistakes you made in your 20s. The math is the same for everyone. 7%. Doubles every 10 years. Start early. Stay consistent. Don't panic. Marcus can retire a millionaire. So can you. The only question is whether you start today or whether you look back 10 years from now and wish you had. If this video made something click for you, I really want you to do one thing before you close it. Just one thing. Go open a Roth IRA. Tonight. Not this weekend. Not when things calm down. Tonight. It takes 10 minutes, and you can fund it with as little as $1. Your future self will feel the difference, even if your present self can barely see it yet. That's how the snowball works. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you in the next one.